Hello, friends. Welcome to the Teresa Lusk Show. I am your host, Teresa Lusk, and today I have the privilege and the honor of introducing to you Julie Clark. And Julie is actually running for a U.S. Texas Congressional seat for District 23. I want you to know that Julie is actually known as the R.I.N.O hunter, Republican in name only. This woman is tenacious. She is a go-getter, and I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say because she's ready to make changes here in Texas and all the way to the White House. So help me welcome Julie Clark.
Hi.
Hello, Julie.
Me.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Julie, you are known as the R.I.N.O hunter, Republican in name only. Tell us a little bit about that and why have you been coined with that awesome name, by the way? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I will. So it's a name that has come from all my hard work as the Republican chair of Medina County. And it's just because I think I stepped up, like a lot of people who don't like what they're seeing in this country over the last 4 years. And I decided to make a difference. And I love our values. I love our country. And we're going to take it back. And in order to do that is we have to get rid of bad representation on the Republican side. And unfortunately, we all know that they have a nickname, which is rhinos. And with our current congressman who was voted in and representing us in District 23, I mean, that's exactly who and what he is. And I plan to unseat him, and we're going to continue to focus on not only him, but other bad representation here in the state of Texas and the Texas legislation and all the way to Washington, because we should be impeaching our current president. And why we don't have enough Republicans to pass that just blows my mind. And it's just about getting people involved and educated on, who and what is representing us in this country.
That's wonderful to hear, Julie. I think that we are absolutely in a time in our nation where we need representatives such as yourself who are going to go in there, not be afraid. It's funny because I was doing some research as I'm, looking you up, and you see there's a lot of people who want a seat, but unfortunately, I think sometimes that comes with this sensationalized view of, I'll get to be rubbing elbows with those who are also, in the White House and in other political seats. And it bothers me a lot because I think it's time for somebody who's coming in with the intention, such as yourself, to come in there and say, enough of the political nonsense, especially within our party. I mean, we already have the challenges of the Democrats, the liberals. So now it's time for people like yourself. I was reading that you spearheaded an initiative to censure Tony Gonzalez because you're running for that seat. So tell us a little bit about that and why did you do that? What's going on? What do Texans, especially in your district, need to know about that?
So yes, and I'd love to speak about this because when I initially censored him, I had no desire to run for Congress or actually any elected position. I never thought I'd even run for a county chair position or any elected position. But this is the path that it's taking me down. And the more that I get involved and the more corruption that I see, the more that I have to stay in this fight. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit of backstory of how I got started. I am not a politician. I am just your regular born and raised Texan conservative that loves his country and loves his state, and didn't like what I was seeing 4 years ago. I think Donald Trump opened our eyes to a lot of things. We are hard workers as Republicans. We go to work every day. We have kids. We go to activities, and we go vote. And we believe that we're doing our civic duty to go and vote for another Republican. And when we found out that that wasn't what was happening in this country, that I said, I can't sit here every night and complain about what's happening with our elections, with our schools, with our elected officials turning their backs on the people that elected them, if I'm not going to step up and do something. And that's when I started to get involved in my county. And I was just, I wasn't looking to even run in my county. I said, I'm just going to get involved. I'm going to help educate people, get behind, the team and make sure that we make something happen. And it just led to nobody wanted to take the lead. Nobody wanted to stand up because it's not easy. We get abused,
Right.
we get threatened, there's a lot that goes on and people don't want to deal with it. And so I understand that. But I'm a very strong person. I don't care what people think about me as long as I know I'm standing for the right thing. And I will continue to fight and I will never back down to anybody. And so I was elected by a landslide in Medina County as a Republican chair. And the minute that I took office, and so let me just back up real quick because a lot of people don't understand sometimes what the responsibilities and duties are of a Republican chair. And we take
Yeah.
office different than any other elected official. County chairs take office in June because of the election. Every other elected official take office in January. And so I took office
Okay.
in June, and we decided at that time we were going to pass a censure because that's what the people in the county wanted for Tony Gonzalez. I didn't even know what a censure was, honestly. I didn't even know how to write one, but I thought this was what they elected me to do. So I sat down to figure it out. And unfortunately, that censure did not pass. We started to get into
Okay.
the elections in our county, so that kind of had to take a little back burner. But once we got through the elections in November, we decided to come back and focus on what can we do to correct this censor because he continued to vote against the people in District 23 and the conservative values and the platforms that the GOP stands for. And that's when this censor passed our CEC. It went all the way up to the GOP, which passed, which was unprecedented. It's the third time
Wow.
this has ever happened. And it
Wow.
really sent a message.
Okay, wow. That's first of all, thank you for the information. I love educating our viewers because that's our heart. We want to educate our viewers. So thank you for helping us see what does the chair do, because I think that it just sounds like a fun little position that you just get to do, you get to be involved, but there's actually some there's a lot of effectiveness, is what I'm hearing you say, in that position, clearly from what you just said. So I want to talk about the importance of this seat, because I think that where you're located, I think anywhere we're located is a big deal, but especially where you're located. Can you tell our viewers why who fills this position, this seat, is such a big deal? Break it down for us, because we know that there are a lot of issues with border issues and, pro-life and gun rights. There's so many things involved here. Why is what the position you're running for, the seat you're running for, why is it such a big deal?
So this congressional seat, for those that are outside of, District 23 in Texas or outside of Texas, this district starts in San Antonio. So to kind of give you a picture of what it looks like, it's a piece of San Antonio, which we know is blue. It goes all the way down Highway 90 to Del Rio and across to El Paso. It has the largest border of any district in the United States of 823 miles. And so with what's currently going on with the Biden administration and our open borders, we need to make sure that we have change, because Tony Gonzalez, our current elected official, is purposely keeping our borders open and not fighting to protect the people in District 23 or Texans, because every city and town in Texas is a border town. And we've got drug cartel, we've got sex trafficking, we've got child trafficking, we've got fentanyl problems, we've got school problems. And so when we censored Tony Gonzalez, and if anyone is interested in reading the censure for Tony Gonzalez that passed with the Republican Party of Texas, please reach out to me. I'll leave you my website. People can leave a message there. We're happy to email it so you can read what the censor says. Tony Gonzalez voted against building a wall. He has voted for more processing centers. He has voted for red flag laws to take away our guns. He was the only Republican in the entire country to vote with the Democrats against the new rule changes for Kevin McCarthy. And so, although you may not be able to vote in District 23, this seat affects every Texan and every American with the way that this person votes. Right now, we only have, I believe, a 6 vote difference if we're going to pass anything in that Texas House, the Congress House. And so even though we have that 6 lead, why can't we pass the impeachment for not only Biden, but for Mayorkas? I mean, that's disturbing with what's going on with this country, that we don't have enough Republicans that are going to vote to make this happen. And so we need change. We need to get rid of people who are not going to stand up to protect this country. And that's why I'm in this race, because I'm ready to take the Texas values back to Washington, to stand up for the American people, and to make sure that we save this country.
You know, praise God for that. You know, one of the things that I want to go beyond the local type politics, because I always tie it back down to, but how is it affecting our nation as a whole? And I just heard you say that, you know, what's happening here in Texas will affect our nation at the end of the day. Can you just break that down just a little tiny bit more? I want to make sure our viewers understand because sometimes we're like, oh, it's just a seat, it's just this area, it's just, I get it, but who is representing really does affect in a big way. I think how Texas is affected affects the rest of the nation in different ways, even especially with the border issue. Look at what we're seeing in other liberal Democrat areas that voted for all the craziness and the sanctuaries, that they were all good with all of that until the reality is now hitting home, right? And I get it. I believe in still being, you know, humanitarian. I've got friends that I love and respect. You know, they have their opinions about things, and well, we created this problem, and I get that somehow the U.S. has had their own responsibility to things, but we can't continue to say, well, we've created this, so now we're just going to ignore the problem. There has to be things that have to be dealt with, period, regardless of what it is. So can you just speak a little bit more about that?
Yes, I can. And, you know, so here's what people said to me when we censored Tony Gonzalez, is that, oh, you're not going to agree on every vote. Well, you know, by golly, at this stage of where this country is, we are going to agree on every vote. And we're going to hold every vote accountable. And every Texan needs to do that. And not to try to get a little side from the Congressional district, but, you know, even what's going on right now with the Texas legislation. You know, we've got Dave Phelan, who now has been censored. And that will be moving to the SREC on September 23rd. We've got other issues going on with other representatives who are bought and paid for that have pushed the taxing issue. So people, I think, are now opening their eyes to see that even though that representative is not theirs, what kind of impact that bad voting can have overall to their life and their livelihood for this country. And that also, again, goes back to this congressional race and why I'm doing it, because we are going to stand and we're going to hold every elected official accountable for every single vote. We're not going to turn a cheek anymore.
Good. Amen to that. Listen, I want to talk a little bit about your policies, but before I do, I want to say this. You know, I'm a woman of faith. I tell people I'm a minister first, and I think that people like you, so you know, I believe in praying for our nation and praying for our nation, our state, our county, our cities, our you know, everything broken down, and then everything as a whole. Right. And one of the things that I see happening in this season is more and more people saying, you know what, enough with the crookedness. We're going to start, I'm running because I'm tired. I mean, like you said, this wasn't something you were planning on doing. Julie, you just said, you know what, somebody has to stand up to this. And one of the things I love is that I really believe the Lord is raising up strong leaders in this season who are not the ones that rub elbows with everybody else. They're not part of the party and the political, and you do have to be different. You do have to do things differently and just be like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to hold people accountable. So I really approach. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry about that. We had just a minor interruption. And so I really admire your approach there. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for moving strongly. So let's talk a little bit about your policies, because as you're running for this seat, we want to know, what does Julie stand for? And I saw the number one, you're about energy independence. So tell us, can you break that down just in layman's terms? Why is it so important when somebody like yourself is running and they say energy independence is very important? Why? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis, and what does it mean for somebody like yourself if you were to take that seat? Why? What would you do? How does that help us as Texans or the people in your district or in the nation?
Right. Well, that's a great question. And coming from the state of Texas, where we have a lot of, the oil business here, and that helps grow our economy, not only the Texas economy, but the United States economy. It puts a lot of people back to work. But most importantly, and what always comes first, is we always need to put America first and Americans first. And that is top priority of the security of this country. And right now, our country is not secure, not just because of the borders, but because of our energy and how we produce our energy and our reserves. And in order for us and our military to be back where it needs to be under the Trump administration, is we need to start being energy independent so that we are able to protect ourselves again, but then we can put our people back to work. We can flourish, and when the oil industry flourishes, a lot of other industries do too. And so it's just a win-win across the board.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to understand that a little bit more. I know you care about strong military. I don't know. I am certain you have seen what's going on under this administration. It's an embarrassment to America. It's an embarrassment that other nations are watching us allow our military to become just twisted in the identity of what we represent. Strong men, strong women, playing, identity politics and all this other perversion that's starting to saturate. Tell us a little bit about how you plan on standing for strong military. What does that mean?
Yes, and I love our military. I love our veterans, and we need to start building it back and be back respectable on what we stand for, and know that we are serious about protecting the United States. And so we need to take care of our vets. They actually, put their lives on hold to go and protect this country. They fought and died for our freedom that is in jeopardy right now. And so I believe it's our duty and to stand up and fight for our freedoms and our Constitution, for what people have already done and given their lives for. My husband is a vet. He is actually the district commander for American Legion for District 23. And so we are actively out there talking to vets, getting them engaged again. I mean, there's a lot of things that our veterans are able to do. I mean, protect our schools. There's so many options to continue to get them involved in the protection of our schools, our state, our country, and we need to get them involved along with our military. And a lot of people don't also know what American Legion does in our schools. They support Americanism and patriotism, and they go teach the youth about loving this country, respecting our flag. And I think that's where we need to start with our youth, getting them back to loving this country, standing up to fighting for the freedoms that we all love, and we will never give up without a fight. And because this is our future, and these are the people who are going to eventually enroll and protect this country. My husband served under Ronald Reagan, one of the greatest presidents, besides Donald Trump. And he loves the military. He loves his time in the military. And we are just trying to get that message out to get more people, or the younger people, involved to feel the same way about this country.
That's wonderful. I love the merging of the veterans with our current military and training, educating. I think that's absolutely essential. I do think that there's a little glimpse of hope, Julie, where you see some of our youth, they're becoming a little more conservative now as they see their manhood being challenged and resisted instead of letting them flow in the naturality of who God made them to be. And so I think that's wonderful. I think it's wonderful, wonderful. So obviously, we know that there's been a lot of things going on with the election integrity. And so I see a lot more people really standing up for that. So what does that mean to you? How do you stand for election integrity?
Well, let me tell you a couple of things. So I'm glad you asked this question, and I'll try not to go on and on about it. So when I took over as the Republican chair, and for those that may not know, your elected Republican chair and Democrat chair are the ones who run your local elections in your county. And when I first was elected, I didn't know election law. I can tell you, I know every election law. I can tell you what is expected out there. And so in my county, every elected official is a Republican. Well, people say, oh, that's a piece of cake then, right? No, because they're not truly Republicans. This is the good old boys that wanted their good old boys elected. And so there is a test under the Texas Election Code. It's called a logistic and accuracy test. And this test is done before every single election within 24 hours of voting starting, early voting. And this is the only time that ballots get to match the tabulator. And so it's not how close can we get, it's pretty black and white. Let's match the ballots to the tabulator. So the people that are there are the chairs from both parties, and they have to sign off on this test. So our election office, they've all been in their roles for years. So you would think this is like down pat, right? They know exactly what to do. They know the outcome, and it's a piece of cake. Well, let me tell you, our county, the first logistic and accuracy test failed. The ballots did not match the tabulator. And they said, oh, just sign off on it. We'll figure it out. I said, absolutely not. The people in this county elected me to run a safe election. So they tried to push it through. I responded back with all the election laws. We said we were going to sue. The next email I got, they said, we're going to be doing a second test. And so they did a second test. The second test, they failed. And they said, well, it's probably an error. And I said, no, I don't care, because
Oh my
the law
goodness.
states the ballots match the tabulator. Sorry, one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so they said, well, what are we supposed to do? I said, well, I'm not really sure. You either count every ballot and figure out where the discrepancy is, or we do another test. So they said, you want us to sit here for 2 days and count, 500 ballots?
Yes.
And I said, you have to do. That's what the law requires. I'm not making you do it. The Texas election law is making you do it. So they sat there for 2 days going through every ballot to see if they could find the discrepancy. In the meantime, they're harassing me. They're trying to get me to sign off on the test. And I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to know the answer to why this does not match our ballots before I sign off on anything. Because if anybody in this county asks me, I want them to be able to know exactly what the issues were. Well, 2.5 days later, we did find out the issue, and I signed off because it was fair and we had the solution to the problem. But let me just tell you, most county chairs don't know about the logistic and accuracy test. They don't even show up for this test. I actually went to the Bexar County election in May just to observe their logistic and accuracy test. They did not have one voting machine there. I asked them about it. They wanted to, have an argument about it. All I did was document. There were 5 people that showed up for this test. Now, this is a public meeting. This is open to the public. So I just want to bring awareness that when people see things like this, they have to advertise in the paper. They have to give notice. We need people to show up and participate in these, because this is their election. And at least, we can't control everything right now, but as long as we have eyes and people watching, then that helps a lot. Now, the
Sure.
second thing that we're doing in Medina County right now, if people don't know, is that we have started a petition. And there is a petition opportunity for every county to go in. And if they get a certain percentage of their registered voters sign off on this petition and it's submitted to Commissioners Court, they have to remove the voting machines and go to paper ballot for the election. So if anyone
Wow.
wants details about this, they can reach out to us for Clerk for Congress, and we will help them with this petition and get them educated on what they can do to make this happen in their own county.
Okay. Wow, that's actually very concerning to me. Just listening to the story, it gives me anxiety on the inside because you just go, oh my goodness, you were willing to stand, Julie. But
Yes.
the truth is, most people wouldn't. They would just kind of go with the flow, maybe not on purpose, but just going, okay, fine, I'll take your word for it. But now more than ever, election integrity is absolutely necessary, and people who will stand for the right thing. So that, oh my goodness, that's just a big deal. So how would your influence and your leadership affect our border? Do you have some insight into that?
Well, yes. I mean, first off, we didn't have a border problem under the Trump administration. And we need to go back to those policies that Trump implemented because they work perfectly fine in protecting the American people. We have a great legislation under Chip Roy, which is HR 29. I totally support Chip Roy, and I support this legislation because it helps hold the Biden administration accountable to protecting and securing not only the illegals that are crossing the border, but also our immigration laws. We also have the opportunity to impeach Mayorkas. And our Congressman, Tony Gonzalez, has stated that he does not support the impeachment of either Mayorkas or President Biden. And that's very concerning because how can you look at what's happening not only in our district, but in this country on so many levels and not support the impeachment of both of those?
All you have to do is watch. Funny thing that you bring him up, that you bring up Mayorkas, because this morning I was watching several of the interviews where they're interviewing him and asking him questions, and he refuses to be honest, forward. He plays games with words, phrases. God forbid that he calls the border a border crisis. He wants to soften up the blow for this administration.
Yes.
And it's truly an embarrassment. It's really frustrating to be a kind of an outsider here because you're watching this and you're going, surely anybody with a brain, especially if you're a Democrat, surely that you're seeing right before your face the crookedness of somebody who's representing this issue on a large scale. He does need to he really just needs to resign, in my opinion. Forget the impeachment. He just needs to resign. Like, hello, goodbye.
Unfortunately, they're not. And let me just tell you too, so those that may not know, I'll hold this up. Our Tony Gonzalez has now submitted legislation which is called HR2, I think that's what it goes by. And so if you're not familiar, it's called the Hire Act. And now he wants to pass legislation to fast track visas to all the illegal aliens so that they can get employed in the state of Texas and across the country. Now, these people who have entered illegally need to be returned to their country. And
Correct.
if they want to work in this country, they need to come over here illegally. We don't need to fast track.
Legally.
We don't need to help them. They have entered this country illegally. And I do not support that legislation at all. And not only that, but then it gives them a 3-year period. So when you're looking at who's crossing the border, and this is what's important, and I know a lot of people have seen a lot of education over who's crossing the border over the last 2 and 3 years. Why do we have thousands and thousands of young military men? Why do we have thousands and thousands of Chinese military men coming across the border? So why do we want to employ them? Now they can stay here for 3 years and work. And then after that 3 years expires, they can waive an in-person interview to expand that visa. No, we need to protect Americans first. We need to protect this country. They need to be shipped back to their country that they came
Yeah.
from, and they need to fill out the proper paperwork. They need to be vetted and background before we let them into our immigration program and find employment here in the United States.
Absolutely. I think if anybody needs to be, anybody's process needs to be accelerated, it's those who've been in line, who've paid thousands of dollars, who've done it the right way. There are some real, I have a friend who's, her husband's done it right. It says she's still waiting for years, thousands of dollars later, years and years. So that's really unfortunate. Why is Tony doing this? What is the motive behind this? I mean, I did watch a few of the clips of some of the things that he's doing, but I always try to understand, what is the reason? What is the motive?
Well, the only motive that I can think of is that he's benefiting somehow. If you look at his donor list, he's supported by some concerning organizations that are not conservative. And so that's what, just like we have lobbyists here in the state of Texas that are, affecting our outcomes on some of our legislation here in Kim Paxton. They're not truly conservative. They're trying to, buy and pay for the votes to flip this state blue. And so they have been successful in getting certain people elected to make this happen. And the thing is that we can still save this country. We need everyone to not only be informed, but you have to show up and vote. Please vote. You have the chance to make a change and get these people out of office. And we need everybody to show up. We need everyone to get behind true patriots who are doing this for the love of their country, not for a paycheck, not to be a government employee, but to really do what's best for the people to save this country.
That's right. That's right. So how many other people are running for your seat that are Republicans, and how do your policies compare?
So right now there's only 3 of us in the race, and that includes Tony Gonzalez. The other candidate doesn't even live in District 23. He lives outside of it. So he doesn't live and have a vested interest in this district. So really what is the difference between us is that I'm doing this not because I want to, but because, just like you said earlier, when I was the county chair, I sat and I prayed and prayed and prayed about what my next step was going to be. I did support other candidates that ran against Tony Gonzalez in the last 2 elections, and unfortunately, they didn't win. And I was hoping that they would, but so when this time came up, when Tony won the last election, I did a lot of praying, and this is the path that I was led down to, because I truly believe that I can beat Tony. We just did a poll in District 23, and we included myself and Tony, the other candidate that's in this race, past candidates that had run against him, to see where everybody fell. And what's very interesting is that with an incumbent at this stage of the race came well below 50%. So he knows he's in trouble. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the censure for Tony Gonzalez, but 16 other counties in District 23 also supported that. So that tells you that this district is ready for a change.
Wow.
And
yeah.
So, I am the only candidate in this race that have signed the term limits pledge for term limits. I'm the only candidate in this race that has signed no tax increases for the American people. And I am the only candidate in this race that has signed Moms for Liberty to protect our children in school.
Wow. Well, those are major issues that absolutely need to be protected. I'm with you. I do think that there does need to be some term limits. I think that's part of the reason for so much corruption. I mean, hello, that's again another commonsensical matter. If you get to be there forever, there's some people get talked about even like in board members, things like that. Somebody was mentioning to me that somebody had been on this school board for like 20 years, and you just go, something is wrong with that. I'm sorry. I get that you feel like if you're being effective, you can stay, but I don't know. There has to be something there, that helps people stay accountable, and I think term limits, and maybe come back after so many years. I don't know, but there needs to be something there. So thank you for sharing about the differences between you and others, because I know that this is probably going to be kind of intense, for this seat. Yeah. So tell me this: are you connecting with the constituents well, and what is some of the feedback that you're getting from them? What do they need? Are they going through a lot because of where they're located and some of the things that are being allowed?
Yes, and so we are off to a great start. We are really happy with where we're at in this race. We are a solid number 2 right behind Tony Gonzalez, and we will be probably surpassing him over the next couple of months. So that tells you right now that we have a lot of support in this district. We are getting ready now to launch our tour in District 23. And let me just read the name, just make sure. So it's called Unleashing the Texas R.I.N.O Hunter Tour. And we are getting ready to start in September. We will be hitting all 29 counties, meet and greets, and talking to, everybody across the district on, challenges and things that they are up against, what they like to see. Because I truly believe that this, and we all know, these seats and these elected official positions are servant positions. They should be accessible to everyone, and we answer to the people. That's correct. Who we represent. We don't represent the lobbyists. I don't get paid for any vote. We don't take money from anybody, because they know that I'm not bought and paid for, because I represent the people. And I will continue to do that, because I'm just like everyone else. I'm concerned. How do you, get elected, and 5 years later, you're worth $10 million? That's not representing the people. And so I'm here to truly do a job to represent and save this country, and then hopefully come home and have someone else who is a patriot, take the place. Because we need to continue to get back to what's important. And these positions, again, should not be a career. It should be a servant position representing the people.
There you go. Well, I definitely think there's a movement on the rise for reestablishing what it means to be a public leader, a public servant. So I think you're right on with that, Julie. Yes. Julie, what are some last things you'd like to tell our viewers? This is your opportunity to share your heart, your mind. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we're going to tell our viewers where to reach you, how to connect with you, because people are watching this. So
yes. Well, so let me just tell a couple of things. And I know we always talk about money, but money is so important. So every dollar matters. So even if you can only give $5, give what you can, and give it directly to the candidate, because we need the money if we're going to beat Tony Gonzalez. We believe we can beat him with about $2 million. And so let me just tell you, so in the first quarter, we announced the 1st of March. We had 28 days in the first quarter, and we came in number 1 in the country with our fundraising. Wow. Now we're through quarter 2. We are just about $400,000 in. So we feel really, really good about where we're at, and we're just getting started. So if you could go to Clerk for Congress, please donate $5, $25, whatever you can. The max is $6,600. We would love the max, but if you can't do it, we completely understand with the state of this country. But unfortunately, money matters to be able to win a race. And so we would love that support. If you're not in the district, this seat affects every American. So follow our social media, share out our information. If you know anybody in this district, please pass on our information and get behind us 100%. Because we need to make a change across the entire country and get the bad apples out of office. And that's what we plan to do. We feel like we're going to win this race, but we still need to get everybody behind us to make that happen.
Absolutely. And of course, it takes money to do everything you do. I mean, people get upset sometimes. They'll talk about even churches, and I'm like, you have to have money. Where do you think people get their money to pay for stuff? So absolutely. Well, Julie, and how can they reach you?
So you can go to clerkforcongress.com. That will also show you my launch video. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, you definitely need to. You can also see our endorsement list. It tells a little bit about my background and who I am. I'm a native Texan. And I'm happy to say this is new. I was just endorsed yesterday by Chad Prether. So if you're a fan of his, I'm just very honored to be able to have his support. We've got some other big endorsements coming down the line as well. So stay tuned and follow us. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram at Julie Clark, Texas. So you can follow us there and see everything that happens. We're starting our tour in the district starting in September. And what's interesting is we do get a lot of donations for $17.76. So if you're a 1776, we'll even take that. So,
That's
donate
awesome.
the 1776 as well, because like I said, everything matters and everything counts. We are never going to quit. We are never going to give up, and we will continue to fight for the American people to the very end. So
There you go. Well, there you go. There you have that. And Julie, one last question. Are you a woman of faith?
I am, yes, 100%. So I
Good.
pray
Well,
every day, and and one of the things that we didn't talk about is that when I was county chair, we actually donated In God We Trust in every school in Medina County. So if you haven't done that in your county and you need some help, reach out to us, because we were happy to help make sure that happened in your schools.
There you go, my friends. Well, there you have it. This was Julie Clark. She is running for the Texas Congressional District 23, and she is ready to make a change. So go and connect with her. You want to find out a little bit more about her. She's got some neat pictures and videos. The woman has guns. Let's just say, I was like, I love this. She's got guns. She's a go-getter. I loved. Just the way that they're presenting you. So, God bless you, Julie, on your run. And I can't wait to stay updated with you and see what all new things are happening. And we are just so glad that you came on today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. There you have it, my viewers. We will see you again soon. Please be sure to share this, especially if you are in her district. We want to make sure that we have change in Texas. It is absolutely necessary. We want to keep our state red. We want to make sure that we keep it as people of faith. And there's a fight for Texas, so we want to preserve our state. God bless you, and we'll see you again soon.